All right, let's talk about one more film in this section, the latest from Minhal Baig, who I saw her debut, Hala, back at Sundance in 2019. This latest film is called We Grown Now. It is a story that takes place in the Cabrini Green Public Housing Complex in 1992. So it's set in Chicago, the city that you're from, that Minhal is apparently from as well. And it follows two boys growing up, sort of dealing with the joys of youth and the hardships of their surroundings, and it is sort of like a dedication to the places that we grow from, right? The places that we either develop in or grow out of or move on from, and the communities and places that even if the physical locations disappear, there's something that is like immortal about a place. And there's a lot of really like pretty compositions in this film. I think it's beautifully shot, particularly in the way that it sort of tries to get at the wonder of youth. Like they do this thing where they jump on old mattresses in the movie, and all those shots are really good. There's a moment where they stand on their heads, and I think the camera move is like awesome in that moment. It's a very like emotional and heartfelt movie. I did find it to be like maybe bordering on patronizing, but like
How so?
Just in that like the ways that it tries to depict, or the ways that it tries to sort of like do certain uplifting moments. There's a whole thing where they the two boys shout together that I feel like I've seen in other films. You also, I think, compared it to Last Black Man in San Francisco, and it definitely is sort of borrowing the like energy of that Emile Mosseri score in certain sequences. I still think there is like something really, really like, I don't know, emotive and touching about this film, even if it doesn't all work for me.
Yeah, it's two kids who grew up and are kind of drifting apart. And
Yeah.
I think that could work in any setting. It's kind of cosplaying Cabrini. Look, as someone from Chicago, I think you can notice a lot of the places kind of being used as backdrops for what would be the remaining buildings that they have there. But everything's blocked out in those buildings, and they can't take off the what's it called, the boards that are on the windows.
Yeah, you can't
So
literally shoot in Cabrini Green, so
yeah, well, they shot in Cabrini Green in the same location where they shot Candyman.
yeah.
But because all of those houses are boarded up, it looks like they're in the Cabrini Green lot for the leftover row houses. When in reality, take In the Heights, everyone's coming out their windows. If they're not coming out their windows, you're not filming in the Heights.
It
Man,
doesn't
those things
feel
are-
as lived in.
A lot of what's doing the work, and shout out to the sound team, it's the sound design. The sound design is building up the hallways. The sound design is building up when they're walking and playing outside. I think they do some good CGI aerial shots. You'll have a building that's too new and wasn't in the 90s in the background, but for the most part, I think for people who are not from Chicago, it'll work. But being from Chicago, you know that those kids already knew the elevator didn't work. You know that those kids wouldn't be questioning a raid. They would have been used to it. And I think that it kind of, in you saying that it patronizes how the kids were yelling out and they would have been shushed in those buildings, I think it kind of is just using Cabrini as a setting that they know would trend. And it feels like it's coming from people who heard a lot about Cabrini from secondhand sources, which obviously that would be most people, when I think you would have a lot of talent that grew up in those places or were more connected that would show you a little bit more of the nuances of what would have happened there. And I feel that it doesn't feel too much like two kids who grew up in Cabrini. It feels like two kids who they wanted to make a story on and then almost suburbanized them because they don't interact or feel foreign to a lot of the turmoil that happened there. And I don't think that's... We kind of talked about in Haunted Mansion, where instead of making Lakeith a quirky lead character who can be a father figure, they also stripped all of his quirkiness to make him kind of like a cliche. They cliched the kids a bit. Just a bit. And I feel like there should have been a little bit more depth with them. But I do compare it to... and I've seen a lot of people compare it to Last Black Man in San Francisco, in the sense that you have these two friends who are kind of growing apart from each other as they grow apart from their location, and how that brings people in. But Last Black Man in San Francisco, New San Francisco. This feels like like it's coming from someone who don't even know O Block right now. So I'll just put it there. I'm waiting for the next movie that covers it a little bit deeper. This could have been a story about two boys, and it could have taken place anywhere. But Cabrini really helps it. Lowrell, that man needs more dramatic roles because he does very little in this, and I think that was one of the best performances. I think they have one of the best scenes when talking to their kid about keeping on. So it's not a bad movie in any way, shape, or form. I just think that they could have used this setting a little bit more, and it felt like it was just covering at its basis for people who have just heard of Cabrini Green and all of the bad things that have happened. And they're like, if we do it through a kid's eyes, all of that bad will disappear, when it should be all of that bad gets consolidated to their point of view instead of it just vanishing. But it's still a decent movie. I'm not going to hate on it. It is opening the Chicago Fest, and you can check it out there at the beautiful Music Box Theater.
Nice.